and welcome to Capital View. There is a stalemate between India and Pakistan after the calling off of the talks between Indian National Security Advisor Ajit Doval and his Pakistani counterpart Sartaj Aziz. In this context of deadlock, what is the future of Kashmir? How does Kashmir deal with this India-Pakistan stalemate? Joining me on that question is senior statesman of Jammu and Kashmir, patriarch of the National Conference, Farooq Abdullah. Thank you so much for joining me on Capital View. The calling off of the NSA level talks between India and Pakistan, is this an ominous sign for India in general and for Kashmir in particular?
Well, I think it is. The failure of the talks not taking place is absolutely tragedy for Jammu and Kashmir people on both sides. The firing will continue to take place from the Pakistani army's strongholds, and we will also fire from our strongholds, and in that common people, boys, girls, women, children, adults will die. And what are they going to achieve, or what are we going to achieve by all this? Nothing. Therefore, the only way forward is talking, and we must talk. This hostility should not continue any longer.
So is it your fear that with the stopping of the talks, that innocent villagers caught in the crossfire, that more innocents will be killed because of this stalling of the dialogue process?
Yes, more will die. But is that in the interest of India or Pakistan, that innocent people continue to die? Whose interest is it?
So do you believe it's these innocent people actually who are bearing the brunt of this failure of talks?
Who cares about those innocent people? Does Pakistan care about those innocent people? How much do we care about those innocent people? They continue to die, and the people are being crossed from the international border, terrorists to kill people here. Is that not happening now?
Right. Let me come down to the specifics as to why the talks broke down. Do you believe that India should have allowed the Hurriyat to attend the Pakistan High Commissioner's reception?
I think it's a past story. Let's not worry about what water has flown down the river in Jhelum. I don't think we should talk about what has happened. It's over. Let us talk of what we are going to do in future. It is future that matters to us, not the past. That is over.
No, but don't you think that it's a tradition that visiting Pakistani officials always meet the Hurriyat? So why break with that tradition?
Well, they've always met. So how does it matter whether they meet or they don't meet? That doesn't solve Kashmir problem. Doesn't solve any problem between India and Pakistan. So why worry? Why make them so big? What for?
Why make it so big? So do you believe that by giving so much importance to the Hurriyat, the Indian government has willy-nilly given them a lot of unnecessary importance?
Pakistan has always spoken to Hurriyat. Hurriyat is a creation of Pakistan. So why worry now? For years they've been talking to them. Last was 23rd of March when there was a Pakistan Day. They also went. Our minister went, who was the chief of the army staff. Well, we didn't bother at that time. We didn't stop them at that time. So what is all this Hurriyat and Hurriyat and all this rubbish? How long? Just ignore them and get on with it.
Ignore them. So do you believe that the Indian government should just ignore the Hurriyat instead of making them a cause celebre?
They should be ignored because Indian government has been paying them for up to this time. They've been paying many members of this Hurriyat. Is that a new thing? Let them stop payment to them.
But do you feel that the Hurriyat is still relevant, that the sentiment of the Hurriyat, the sentiment...
Well, you're making them relevant. All the time you're talking about Hurriyat. Have you talked about any other party? You're making them relevant anyway.
Right.
What is new about it?
No, I'm only asking because the Indian government seems to have made it the main sticking point. So do you believe that the Indian government has made a big mistake by giving the Hurriyat so much importance and making it a prestige issue?
I think at least they put their foot down and said, for once, there is no such thing as Hurriyat. They do not represent people of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. Let's be clear on that.
But isn't it ironical that when Vajpayee was the Prime Minister, they were invited for roundtable conferences with the government, and now the government is treating them like a pariah? So isn't that a bit of a double standard?
Vajpayee's era is over. Manmohan Singh's era is over. Now you got a new Prime Minister called Modi. He has his own doctrine. He has his own way of working. So let's see what he does. How much of peace he is able to achieve with Pakistan. That is what matters.
Right. I'll come to that question in just a bit. I just want to pursue you on the Hurriyat question just one last time because it's assumed so much centrality.
I won't answer any more question on Hurriyat, please.
Okay. But do you feel they should contest elections?
It is their job to decide whether they want to contest or not contest. I'm not the one to tell them, you get onto the stage and contest.
Right. Do you believe that this entire episode, this calling off of the talks, has also embarrassed the Mufti government, which is of course a partner of the BJP there in Jammu and Kashmir?
I don't think Mufti could care less.
You don't think he can care less?
He couldn't care less whether you embarrass him or not. He's sitting on the chair. They were poles apart before the election. He criticized them right, left and center. And then when it came to take the chair, he embraced them and forgot all those things he had told the poor Kashmiris, that he will never be part of BJP or RSS.
Right.
He will sink with that. You wait and see.
If the National Conference was in power and if you were the Chief Minister, what would you advise the Indian government to do with respect to Pakistan?
I won't think I would advise anything. Indian government has their own mind. Let them use their own mind. They don't need Farooq Abdullah's advice even if I was a Chief Minister.
On the issue of terror and talks, do you believe that given the terror attacks that have taken place in Udhampur, that have taken place in Gurdaspur, can there be talks in this kind of a context?
Terror is a major issue between both countries. We are not the only ones who have been destroyed by terror. Their country is also being destroyed by terror. They forget that. They forget how mosques are attacked by the terrorists. They forget how their army is fighting in the tribal areas against the terrorists. They forget when the Peshawar school boys, where the military officers or men's children study, they were murdered. Do they remember that? That was also terrorism. That is why India wants to talk about terrorism, so that both countries can unitedly join to fight terrorism. That should be our first and foremost object. Once we fight terrorism, Kashmir can also be discussed and all other issues can be discussed with Pakistan.
But would it not be difficult to convince a domestic constituency? Because if India is being repeatedly attacked by terrorists from Pakistan allegedly, then how can there be a domestic peace constituency? How can there be political support for talks?
There is only one way out, and that is talking. Talking is the only way. It may not be solved in 1 year, 10 years, 30 years. But we should not give the path of talking out. We should not close it. We should keep a window open. That is what we must do.
So how do you react to the Pakistan Army's claim that they too are victims of
terror? How do I react to what?
How do you react to the claim of the Pakistani army that Pakistan too is a victim of terror? Do you agree with that, that Pakistan too is a victim?
Pakistani army is the real controller of Pakistan. When will you people understand that? When will it sink into the mind of people in India and those who are in power? That is the Pakistani army. That is the master of Pakistan.
How do you assess Prime Minister Modi's Pakistan policy? Do you believe that this is muscular diplomacy, or do you believe it's too hardline?
I don't know. They will talk again. There is SARC coming. There is United Nations meeting coming. I'm sure they will try and find a method of talking on the sides of these meetings. We'll keep on talking. We have talked for the last 60 years. We'll keep on talking for another 60 years. God knows how many prime ministers India will change and how many military generals in Pakistan will disappear. We are going to keep on talking.
But is Modi's policy too hardline?
I don't know what you call by hardline. What is hardline? They're telling Pakistan This is where we draw a red line? Is that hard line?
Do you believe that Modi needs to reach out more to Pakistan? Do you believe the signals are a little too tough? Do you believe the signals are not right coming from the Indian government?
Did he not open his doors when he was sworn in? Did he not invite almost all our country's chiefs to Delhi? Was that not an open invitation that we want to have friendly relations with all neighbors? Was that not so?
So, do you believe that Pakistan is taking Mr. Modi for a ride? Do you believe that after that joint statement in UFA, do you believe that Pakistan, in fact, made a mistake, took Mr. Modi for a ride by then insisting on including Kashmir in the NSA level talks?
I don't think Modi can be taken for a ride by anybody. He's master of himself and he knows what he has to do, and he'll do exactly what he wants to do.
So how do you assess Modi's Pakistan policy?
I don't know how to assess it. He tried to speak to them. He spoke to them in Moscow also. What do you want him to? To beg before them? Go on his knees? Is that what you want?
I just want to ask you, at the end of the day, is the trust deficit now between India and Pakistan simply too high for the Indian Prime Minister to reach out?
When has there been a trust between the two which has been strong? When? Both countries have mistrust. Both countries do not trust each other. That has been going on for a long time. We had a ray of hope when General Musharraf was in command. We had hoped that something new will emerge. He was talking of solution out of the box. But unfortunately, he had a battle with the judiciary in Pakistan, so those things that would have happened did not take place. Let's wait till next general takes over in Pakistan and we might find a way forward.
So you believe that a general should take over in Pakistan and that will lead to a way forward?
Obviously, they are the government. It will be better that the general sits on the chair and probably talks to Indian Prime Minister. That probably will solve things far quicker. Then you have to have double. The Prime Minister has to check with the army. Only after the clearance of the army, the person will speak. This takes time.
So you believe Mr. Nawaz Sharif is in no position to make peace with India?
Who the hell am I to tell you this? I am seeing what is happening. The command lies, as I told you 100 times, lies with the army. Whether you accept it or not, it's up to you.
But, the question arises, how will dialogue take place? Because, when you had the
They will have to find a way. There's nothing that, if a person wants to find a way, they'll find a way. There's always a way.
But hasn't the dialogue process repeatedly come up against...
It will take place. You don't worry about it. Dialogue will take place. There is already a dialogue going to take place on 5th and 7th of September, between 5th and 7th of September, between our forces, BSF on the border and the others. So, dialogue will continue.
But, we've seen how the Lahore summit led to the Kargil war. We saw how the UFA meeting has now led to the breakdown of talks. So, will the Pakistan army ever really allow a dialogue to take place?
I hope so. I hope one day the pressure will be so high, they'll have to, because their own country is being destroyed by terrorism. They're all going to vanish far quicker than we'll vanish if that continues.
And what's the solution for Kashmir then? Do you believe that
Don't find the solution from me. Solution will come out only by talking. No solution will come without talking.
Is it soft borders? Should Kashmiris across border interact more freely, talk to each other more freely?
We've always been a fodder for their guns. We'll continue to be a fodder for their guns till they realize that the line of control will not change. So, let them go on, let them try their guns. Someday God will probably look at us and think of us in a better way.
So what was your personal reaction when you heard that the talks had been called off? Did you have a sense of disillusionment, disappointment? What did you feel?
We all felt disappointed. There's no doubt about it. I'm sure the people on the border felt far more disappointed than Farooq Abdullah must have felt, because they're the ones who are facing guns, both sides. They must have cried like hell, because I went to the border, I saw our people, their suffering I saw, and yesterday on the BBC I saw the Pakistani side of it, and what those people were saying. They were saying nobody from the Pakistan government has come to see their trouble and their tragedies.
In this context, you're saying repeatedly that we should talk, we have to talk, India and Pakistan have to talk. Is it wise for the talks to happen in another country, perhaps, in another city, not in Islamabad or New Delhi, but in another country?
We have to find a way how we go forward. It is for the two countries to decide, do they want peace or do they want a nuclear war? What do they want? If they want peace, they will have to try and find ways of finding peace. Kashmir is not for barter. Let's make that clear.
Right. Farooq Abdullah, as feisty as ever, saying we have to talk, we have to find ways to make peace. Let's take a short break at this point and come back with lots more with Farooq Abdullah on the other side. Welcome back to Capital View. We're talking to senior statesman of Jammu and Kashmir, former Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir, Farooq Abdullah, on what is the future of Kashmir now that there is this deadlock, this stalemate between India and Pakistan. Mr. Abdullah, you were also talking about the media, the responsibility of the media. Do you believe the media has to canvass for talks rather than give vent to nationalistic sentiment?
I think they have to create that sense of talk. They have to create it for other people also on the other side and tell them, we don't want destruction. With very great difficulty in 60 years or 66 years, we have tried to build a country and get a better future for our people. We want you to also have that better future. We don't want wars, we want peace. And for that I would beg of the media on both sides to create that sense of peace, and let's create a situation of trust between the two nations.
When you hear the Pakistan NSA, Sartaj Aziz, saying that India should not mess with Pakistan, we have nuclear weapons, what is your reaction to this kind of talk, to this kind of war?
I'm very sorry. If a senior diplomat, an old foreign minister of Pakistan, talks of nuclear weapon, I think he's crazy. I think I remind him of Hiroshima and Nagasaki and tell him, look how many thousands and thousands of people died, and not a single inch of grass is growing in that area since that bomb fell there. Is that what Sartaj Aziz wants now? Is that he's planning to drop an atom bomb on Jammu and Kashmir? Is that what he wants? India has also got a bomb. And I remember Bajpayee's words when I went to that place where the experiment was done. And he said, we are not the ones to use this first. We have this deterrent only to tell people that don't take us for granted. We can defend ourselves. This is what I tell Sartaj Aziz also. Remember, don't think of atom bomb. It will be the innocent who will die. And Sartaj Aziz Sahab, you will also die, and I will also die if that bomb falls. So just avoid such talk.
Let's come to Kashmir now. There have been reports that the Islamic State, the ISIS, is making inroads in Kashmir. Do you see that element, that growing extremist element in Kashmir?
No, I don't see that element at all. Not at all. Don't get confused if somebody puts up a flag. That doesn't really matter to us. This is just to show their anger. And we must look into why that anger is there.
Why is that anger there? Why is that anger there?
Can you imagine? Last year we had a flood here, and those people are still suffering. On the 8th of September, the major flood took place, and those people are still waiting for help. Modi Sahab could give 1 lakh crore, over 1 lakh crore to Bihar because the elections are coming. What about these poor people who are going to face winter now? When is that assistance going to come to them? That is why you see these flags.
Is the Modi government neglecting Kashmir?
Yes, it is. I'm sorry to say. Totally neglecting.
So do you believe a lot of election promises were made and those promises are not being kept?
No, they have not been kept. We are still waiting for 4-lane road to join us with Udhampur. We are still waiting for rail to come into Srinagar. How long? It was to be completed in 2007. This is 2015 going on to 2016. Where are we? And we talk of ourselves being Atut Eng of Hindustan. Does anybody cry for us when our people die on border? Has Mr. Modi come to see those people who have died?
That's an excellent point. Do you believe that Mr. Modi should visit those families that are suffering on the border and see the families?
I think he should visit immediately.
Right. Do you think the rest of India doesn't realize the sufferings of the people on the border?
I don't think they realize anything. Did they realize the suffering of the people of the floods who are still suffering, whether in Jammu, Kashmir or Ladakh?
So is there a growing alienation in Jammu and Kashmir? Are the young feeling distant from India once again?
Come and see yourself. Come and see how the young feel. Come and see how the hatred is growing in them.
So why is this hatred growing?
Well, because of the failure of the government.
At the very end, Mr. Abdullah, you know, what is the way forward? How can the dialogue process be restarted? Because as you rightly point out, and as you very correctly and passionately point out, that innocent people are suffering because of the stalling of the talks. So what is the way forward according to you?
Way forward is only talking. And Pakistan will also realize, because their people are also dying. It's not only we only. They're also dying on their sides. And if these talks continue to fail like this and nothing is done, there'll be far more casualties on the two sides. Far more. Let's, for God's sake, stop this unholy war that is taking place.
So you're saying restart the talks and restart the talks now?
We have to. We have to open back channels. We have to open every channel that we can to get on with the next line of thinking.
Right. Mr. Farooq Abdullah, thank you so much for joining me on Capital View. A very anguished Farooq Abdullah saying we have to do everything possible to restart the talks because innocents are dying every day because of the stalling of the dialogue process. Thank you very much indeed for joining me.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/ETNow.